What's the cause of Ghana's worst WASSCE results? Why was Ghana Education Service sued? And as Muslims drag the Wesley Girls SHS case to court, are they ready to also allow traditionalists to practice their religion in their schools? Well, I know some Islamic schools that even force Christians to wear hijabs. They even go to the extent of making Christians undertake Islamic religious studies. Come to think of it, are they really ready for this conversation, fair and square? Well, my name is Chris, and I'm here to nail or break it on this episode of Talk Chaw right after this. Last Saturday, the West African Examination Council WAEC released the 2025 results of the West African Senior School Certificate Examination WASSCE, and it was the worst ever in the past decade or more. Like, it was just unthinkable how the level of failure, it was unprecedented. People were just gobsmacked. They were like, what is this?" And what even broke the camel's back was the fact that the students failed the easiest subject among all the core subjects. Subjects like social studies, about 122,000 students failed it totally, like F9. And this means that they will not be able to continue their education to the tertiary level. They will not be able to meet entry requirement because that's a core subject, a prerequisite to gain admission into the university. About 114,000 of them too failed core maths, which is quite a trend. But what was the shocker was the social studies one, and people just got people thinking. Look at the statistics of the other results, like from the core subject, and you realize that the best among the course that they performed was English. Well, they did well. About 69% of them passed, and only 12% of them failed. The rest of the other core subjects, starting with the West, social studies, about 27% failed, followed by mathematics, about 26% failed, and integrated science, 16% failed. And you look at the numbers and you are just shocked. Price. What do you think caused this? A lot of people have been leaving the blame at the doorstep of the current education ministry and blah blah blah. And come to think of it, the people who wrote this year had been in school for 3 years, right? This year was just their preparation year to write the WASSCE. So if you leave it at the doorstep of the current government or education ministry or GES, it makes no sense. It's unthinkable, because how can you prepare somebody for 3 years, and in the final year that the person is writing, the person comes and meets them writing or about to write, and you blame them? So I don't think that's the case. But of course, you can blame the systems that were put together during this year's exam, because during this year's exam, first of all, the education minister, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, issued a stern warning against examination malpractice, to the point that even about 35, I think about 40 people were arrested, and nearly 20 of them were instructors, like teachers, who were aiding and abetting with these students to cheat, right? So it means that this particular year, there was a clampdown on examination malpractice, which could have ultimately resulted in the bad result, because they weren't able to cheat just as much. You see the thing? And also, other people are saying that the previous government did all it could to make sure the results were cosmetic, so that it will vindicate their free SHS initiative, which could be the case, because they just left government, and the very first result that came after they left government is this bad. So you can just realize, maybe, just maybe, there were some machinations in the previous result, because the government wanted, people were having fears of standards of education falling due to the haphazard nature of how the free SHS was rolled out, the double track system, the less time in school, less contact hours, and most of the quality issues that were raised. So the government could have been like, well, let's make the students pass in order to shame our enemies. And now that they are out of power, the new government, who doesn't have any such intentions of helping the student pass just to make a point, probably allowed it to go the normal way. And now the normal way is what has led to the results that we have. The former education minister, Dr. Yahweh Educhum, accused the Ghana Education Service of being the cause of the issue by cancelling some of the teachers' allowance and all those stuff. But the Ghana Education Service has issued a communication stating that there is no truth in what the former education minister is saying. And in fact, the current results that we see, as bad as it is the true state of affairs, or the real representation of what the standard of education that was given to the students who start for the WASSCE this year. So, what do you think? What do you really think is the issue or the reason behind the worst WASSCE results Ghana experienced this year? And going ahead with the conversation, there's been a back and forth between Muslims and Christians, but it's not fair. It's actually Muslims and Wesley Girls Senior High School. But I don't know why some people are escalating it to cover other religious groups who have they have no business in this, because most religious schools allow Muslims to practice their religion freely whatsoever. They make way for the provisions for them and others. But particularly Wesley girls, according to the reports, don't really allow Muslims the free will to pray and do other Islamic activities. Yeah. So it's a peculiar case of Wesley girls. But these Muslims are blowing it out of proportion, They are making it a national issue to the point where they sue GS and the Attorney General or the Minister of Justice regarding this issue. And the worst part, they didn't even talk to the school. Like, the school wasn't part of the suit. They just went ahead and sued government for whatever that is happening, and that is quite disrespectful. Some things are just a matter of dialogue. You could have the Ghana Muslim Mission, whosoever could have met the Wesley Girls Senior High School people or the Methodist Church who owned the school to probably jaw, but they didn't do that. They just went straight to court, and the Attorney General, Mr. Honorable Dominic Ayina Akrotinga, was like, well, Methodists or Wesley girls have the rights to do that because it's a mission school. And let me give you a bit of a background into the mission school system. The mission schools are schools built by the church. So let's say the Catholic Church, Methodist Church, Presbyterian Church built schools which were eventually theirs in totality, and over time government came in to support so that the schools will pick public citizens, basically. You see that thing. So the schools were good as private property, and they were handed over to government to aid in the management and financing of the school, so that in return those schools would admit everyone who wants to go to these schools. On this backdrop, the schools remain mission schools, partially controlled by the churches, which means that the schools propagate the religious standing of the initiators or the people who incepted them. So let's say the Catholic schools still have Catholic services and stuff that all students are supposed to go through, and they do other Catholic things. You see that thing. The only difference is that with Catholic schools and some of the other mission schools, they allow the other religious groups to also do their thing. Let's say Muslims do, even to the point that some of the mission schools allow Muslims to build mosques on campus, right? And the only school that is not allowing this intrusion is Wesley Girls. Reportedly, they don't allow Muslims to do Ramadan, pray, and all those stuff. And I think that's a peculiar case. But of course, these Muslims or the people picking up this case would want to blow this out of proportion, and there has been a hula baloo, everybody clamoring as though all hell is supposed to break loose because one school out of a zillion mission schools in Ghana is not doing that. I personally think they could have just reached out to the Methodist Church to Joe, like a way negotiate something, because before anything else, this school has been running on the system that they are currently running for over a century. Wesley Girls has been there for over 100 years, going to 200 years. And because of the standards that they've kept, that's the reason why they have the reputation that they do, for which reason your Muslim students want to be in those schools. All of a sudden, they should let down their guard and allow everything just because you want it to be so. Now you are saying you want your people to practice their religion in a Methodist school by forcing your way, because they want the courts to what? Instruct them, force them to give the Muslims the right to pray in school. But now, what if the traditionalists decide to activate the same thing? Should they allow? And if the traditionalists invoke the same powers on your Islamic schools, the Islamic mission schools, will you allow the traditionalist people to pour libation, do their kanchen and the rest in your schools? You see where it gets murky for all of us. At the end of the day, all of us shouldn't allow our freedoms to override common sense. You see the thing, you have freedom of association, freedom of religion, and all those stuff, but it doesn't mean that your freedom of religion should make you go to a mosque to do a church service there, right? Freedom of movement. So because of that, you can turn up at my house at any time that you want. Your freedom of movement ends at where mine starts. You see the thing. So you have freedom of religion, freedom of association, freedom of this, freedom of that, freedom of that. But it doesn't mean it should overstep to somebody's bounds. And besides, it's their property until the government took over to help them manage it. So now let's imagine this. Let's say the school was a house and they were running it on their own, and government says, okay, let me help you run it so that you can admit my citizens. Over time, you are telling me that you don't want me to practice what I want to be done in my house just because government said he wants to help me run the school, and in return I'll pick people from his people. Is it a thing? And by the way, would the Muslims also allow such same thing to be done in their school? Because I know Muslim schools who make all their students wear hijab, because according to them, if they make the Christians not to wear the hijab, it will influence the Muslims to students also go wayward by also not wearing the hijab. So because of that, they made it a general rule that everybody must wear it. Some of them also make them undertake Islamic religious studies. In fact, even at the primary and JHS level, like some of the basic schools, they make them undertake a Quran studies. They call it makaranta. Yeah, I stayed in the Zongo community, so I know what I'm talking about. They make them learn, I think, from morning to 10 a.m. every morning, whether you're a Christian, whether you are whatsoever. So far as you go to that Islamic school, which is a government school, if you care to know, you learn the Quran, makaranta, from morning to 10. And after that, you now go through the normal lessons for the day. Did we go and complain that why are you making your government schools learn makaranta? Nobody is. But at the end of the day, we are all here to learn. We are all here to coexist peacefully. But I think the Ghana Muslim Mission is blowing it out of proportion. And the statement that they issued, they said they're exercising extreme constraints. What do you mean by exercising extreme? That sounds like a threat. It doesn't mean that if you didn't exercise those extreme constraints, you'd have unleashed something on us. What's the worst you could have done? The worst you could have done is what you've done, taking them to court instead of what? Sitting to jaw with them. What is wrong with the Ghana Muslim Mission turning up at the Wesley headquarters, having a meeting with them and trying to find an amicable way of resolving the impasse? But rather, you took them to court without even informing them. You sued the Ghana Education Service and the Attorney General or so without even telling the school. So you just want the courts to make a decision. Then the Ghana Education Service will enforce it on the messages. Is that peace? Is that a way of peace? Let's get serious in this country. And besides, as I said earlier, if the traditionalists also decide to invoke the same thing that the Muslims are invoking right now, will you allow the traditionalists to also do their thing in Islamic schools? Because at the end, everybody has freedom of religion. And in Ghana is a secular country which recognizes the Christian religion, Islamic religion, and the traditional religion. So the traditionalists, I hope you are listening. The case is in court. I don't want to talk much about the merit of it, but I think there should be a better way to go about it. And the education minister, what he's saying regarding this issue is very bad. Because we know you're a Muslim, but try to be a little unbiased in your commentary on this matter. The same you who said you won't allow haircuts because you want uniformity and you're molding character is now saying that this one is against international standard. Do you know what we are doing in Ghana which is against international standards? Don't go there with international standards. Try to be a neutral, because at this point in time you are standing in between the two factions. And if the impasse continues, Haruna Idrisu may have to go because you're a Muslim and you've already shown us that you are biased towards the Muslim community just because you're a Muslim. Either way, let me know your thoughts on this. This has been Talk Chaw. My name is Chris.